This episode contains discussion around handling one's personal finances and investing. The information shared in this podcast is for informative and educational purposes only and is not to be taken as financial advice. Remember that any investing or personal finance decisions that you take are your responsibility alone, and it's strongly advisable to do your own research before making any decisions and consult the opinion of a professional where applicable.
Welcome to episode 13 of the Multinational Money Podcast.
Welcome to the Multinational Money Podcast. I'm Jonny, your host, and if you're interested in financial freedom, expat life, and making the most of global opportunities, then this is your podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Laura Moore. Laura is a money coach and entrepreneur from the UK who talks about her journey with personal finance and how to get started investing. And she also shares snippets of her daily life as an entrepreneur, where she sometimes gets the opportunity to travel as well. So we're going to learn all about that in this episode. Let's go right into it. All right, Laura and Moore, welcome to the Multinational Money Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great to have you. You're one of the creators that stands out the most on my feed of all of the finance content that I see. Very interesting, very funny account to watch. So we're gonna learn all about you and your journey today. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself to start with.
So I have about 1 million titles, but I am a money mindset expert, a financial coach, speaker, educator, podcast host, business owner, the list goes on. But my whole thing is about talking about money in a fun and judgment-free way and helping people to, I guess, change their relationship with money and feel confident building wealth. That's kind of the whole aim of my podcast or my social media. Yeah, and I work with people in such a range of ways. I do one-to-ones, I do corporate workshops, I do a lot of talks and panels, I do a lot of podcasts, and I've got an investing course as well. So yeah, not short of being busy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you must be a busy person. And coming back to what you said about telling it in a fun and non-judgmental way. That definitely is what I think makes you stand out from other people that I've seen on Instagram and TikTok. A lot of finance influencers, they're, normal people, they're happy, they have their own way of sharing it, but you definitely stand out as as if you're talking to your mates, to your friends, in that sense. That. Yeah.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah. What made you go for that approach more as opposed to a more serious persona?
I think that the financial service industry is so stuffy and boring. And money is a tool that helps people, create their whatever life they want. And I'm a big believer that money is very powerful and money touches everybody. It's not just rich people. It touches everyone, everywhere. So I'm why is this industry being aimed at a certain type of person? There is a whole nother, groups of people, should I say, that need to know and learn about finances. And I've had my own personal finance journey and, as everybody has, but in loads of different ways. And I'm I don't know, I just feel like money is for everybody. And I feel like people learn and listen through relatability and humour and not just using a bunch of words that don't even make sense half the time, talking about something that's really boring. So it's essentially I like making something boring fun. And also I'm a trained actress. So for me, it's my way of still getting to perform, I guess, because I get to talk about really complex topics and things that are going to help people in a way that's fun for people to listen to, but also fun for me to do. And I love fun. Everything is about fun.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because, I'm really interested in personal finance and stuff, and I could talk about it forever. But I'm sure there's certain people who I know if I tried to talk about it with them, really you're excited, you're interested in that. Yeah. So I think it's good to have a voice out there, which makes it more fun, more interesting. So
yeah, and I've recently started my diploma in financial planning. So it's a 2-year, basically, I'm studying for about 2 years to get qualified. And for a lot of people, very, very boring. But even as I've started the book, even people in finance have been Laura, watch out, the first exam's really boring. And as I'm reading the textbook, I'm this is quite interesting. So it's like I have an interest in it anyway for my own like personal. So I'm able to take all this information that's maybe overwhelming, confusing, overcomplicated, enjoy it and learn it myself, and then get it across in a way that more people can understand. And I think that's kind of the power. I mean, that's the power of social media as well, right? But that's the power of the way of doing it the way that I do it.
Absolutely, yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
Great.
I think it's good.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk now a little bit about your personal finance journey. So how did the whole story begin? Like your journey with personal finance up to now, what you do today, and, you know, sharing your story with everyone else.
So I came from a family that doesn't have a lot of money. You know, we don't have a lot of money. So I guess saw firsthand the negative impact that lack of financial education or financial freedom has on a family, on an individual. And then when I got my first job when I was like 16, I just was like a total hoarder with money. Like it just went the other way, and I was like, oh my God, I need to hold on to it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, I know I need to hold on to this. And then my sort of lifelong dream was to be an actress. And to go to drama school, it costs about £15,000 per year in tuition fees. And at the time when I wanted to go, you couldn't get like a loan like you can for university, like because you can now with drama schools. But at the time, all those years ago, I couldn't. So I was like, right, I need to find a way to save this money. I need to save it for myself. I'm not going to get it from anybody. So I got a full-time job when I was 19, just fresh 19, and saved 15 grand by the time that I was 22. And then right before I was due to go drama school, I got asked to go travelling. So I was like ready to go to drama school, had the money, you know, like delusional young 19-year-olds managed to save all this money. And then my two best friends were like, do you want to come to Australia with us? And I was like, this is an amazing opportunity. So I decided to go travelling, and I was away for about 8 months. And I did Australia, New Zealand, Bali, Cambodia, like Thailand, so many amazing places. But I had this light bulb moment where I was like, I didn't have to pick what one I wanted based on what one I could afford. It was what one did I want. Like the money was there, and I had that moment where I was like, oh my God, money gives you options and choice and freedom. And then, you know, came home from Australia, got my old job back, saved another 25 grand, moved to London, decided I didn't want to be an actress or didn't want to pursue that path, and then started talking about money online. And here we are, a couple of years down the line.
Wow, what a journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So my personal finance journey is very mixed into, like, my own personal journey is really mixed into also why I do it as a career. Like, they're kind of interlinked.
Yeah. Have you had to deal with debt or anything like that?
A little bit. Okay. At different points, like, you know, not necessarily in my younger years. I was a massive saver, like through and through. And then I obviously went to Australia and was like, spending's fun as well. So sort of shifted my relationship with spending. And then always been a good saver, but I would definitely say since running a business, that's probably something I've had to deal with more. Especially, you know, it's just how it is in the first few years. Like I quit my full-time job about 2 years ago, and then I'm a single woman supporting myself in London, running her own business during a time economically which isn't great. So it's definitely something I've had to deal with, but I think I've got such a positive relationship with money, it's not an issue for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think if you've got your finances on lock, like whatever stage of life you're in, like if you know what your obligations are, what you need, what your goals are, then I think you can pretty much, you're in a good stead to weather like anything life throws at you.
Exactly.
You got some kind of adaptability, yeah. And then investing, so you talked a lot about saving there, but when did investing become a part of your journey? So
I had about 20 grand sat in a bank account, and I went on a date. This would have been like 5 years ago, maybe now. And I went on a date, and this guy was basically like, we were talking about money, which was really cool to, you know, just be able to have those conversations. I think it's important. And I was like, oh, you know, I've got this £20,000. And he was like, is it just in a savings account? And I was like, yeah, you know, so proud. And he was like, oh my God, you're literally losing money. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Surely I'm not, because it's still there. No one's taking it, and I'm making interest from savings. You know, I just couldn't get my head around it. And he was like, no, you should be investing. And he sort of like opened that kind of door for me with just that initial thought. And then I was like, oh my God. So I went and did loads of research on my own. And then luckily I had a friend who was actually a wealth manager, and he'd seen one of my Instagram posts where I was like, what is this? And he was like, let me talk you through it. We went for a beer, and honestly, he spent a couple of hours for me just explaining the whole thing. And I asked so many questions. I was like, why is this? What's this? What does this word mean? Why does it? Da, da, da. And then by the end of it, I was like, why is it this easy? And why isn't everybody doing it? Like, I couldn't believe the difference that it was then going to have, the impact it was going to have on my life. Because for me, investing changed the entire like financial trajectory of my life. So then I was like, oh my God. And then I started, took me a bit more time, a bit more research to get a bit confident doing it. But then, yeah, now it's a big part of my life. And I teach other people how to do it because I'm like, it's the most powerful thing.
Yeah. What you just said has brought something to my mind, which I've noticed here living in Spain as well. Like, it is like so straightforward, just, making sure you're contributing regularly to whatever, your investing strategy is, let's say an ETF or a broad market index fund, just for example's sake. But yeah, like financial education around the population, I don't know, just there's some people you talk to about it and they really don't, like, they're not aware of it.
Not aware of it. And it's like so common, I mean, especially in the UK, but like, first off, you've got people going through school and not getting any financial education, which is a sticky point in itself because teachers are already overrun with the jobs that they have now. And a lot of, I've worked with teachers one-to-one before. They're not exactly like number one, like best with their finances. They're just like everybody else that, so it's like, who's going to be teaching these kids? And then it's like they get into uni age and people get offered loans and, student loans and grants and stuff like that. And it's like people aren't, at what point are people learning? It's not until you get out into the big wide world and you get a full-time job or any kind, or a part-time or self-employed or whatever it looks like. And then you're like, oh, I have responsibilities now. Oh, I'm meant to be buying a house. Oh, wait, what do you mean I have to think about retirement? And like these things just get chucked at you and you're like, a little bit of help. So yeah, a lot of people are definitely swimming around in the ether, not really knowing. And because people find it boring, the last thing they want to do on their Friday evening is sit down and look at their finances.
Yeah, you make a good point. I was talking the other day, like just recorded another episode with Ryan from Making Money Simple, and we were talking about Ryan. Yeah, great. We had a really good discussion. And we were talking as well about like the mainstream media and like social media and how like finance and investing is portrayed. And you've got like obviously the influencers, some who, are legit and tell the story like how people should hear it. Others who are like Dogecoin to the moon. And then, but if you look at like, I won't name like publications names, but let's just say like the mainstream media, the way they talk about like the stock market and the economy, I don't know, like people probably just look at it and they're just like, I ain't got a chance.
Exactly.
And I think that also plays a role.
Yeah, and it's really funny. I had this thing the other day. I was at a party and I met this guy and we were just chatting and he's really into crypto. Crypto, not my bag, but each to their own. He's done obviously a lot of research. He really understands it. And normally when I speak to like finance bros or crypto bros, they're like, they talk at me about cryptocurrency and I'm like, I'm like boring, or I'm like, no, that sounds too scary or whatever. But he explained it to me really well, where I actually really understood it. And I wasn't made to feel dumb. I asked all the questions. He repeated himself. And I was like, wow, for the first time I'm understanding it. And it made me interested in it. Not enough to go put any money in it, but enough to pique an interest and go, oh, maybe I should look into that. But I had this moment where I was like, that feeling that I had about all of that stuff, and then you have a conversation with someone, you realise maybe it's easier. It's like, that's how the general public feel just about investing in like safer things such as stocks and funds versus crypto. Like this is not me promoting crypto at all. But that feeling of like, I'm scared of it, I don't understand it, I feel stupid, this isn't for me. That feeling is what people feel just generally about investing and building their wealth. When you talk to people and you say, did you know if you've got a workplace pension, you're already an investor? And they're like, what? So it's like the lack of knowledge, but also the fear mongering from the media is ridiculous. Because what do? You go online and you're like, it's like inflation at all-time high, stocks are about to crash, and everyone's like, ah, like freaking out. So it's like,
yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Interest rates in Europe have increased significantly over the past few years. And whilst that should be good news for savers, it's not always the case if the banks in your home country aren't increasing the rates that they pay on deposits. Fortunately, there's a way to make sure that you have access to the highest interest rate deposits that are available, and that is Raisin. Raisin is an online platform that connects banks across Europe that are offering high interest rate deposits and high interest rate savings account with potential clients that may not necessarily be in the same country as that bank. That means that someone living in Spain could access bank deposits and savings accounts that may be in Lithuania, Italy, and Portugal, where there may actually be better offers in those banks than there are in Spanish banks. With each offer available on the website, you can see what is the minimum deposit, what the minimum term is if it is a deposit. You can also check if you can break that deposit early to have access to your money ahead of the expected maturity date. And you also see what deposit protection schemes are available for your money in that bank based on which country they're in. I've been using Raisin for almost 2 years now, and I'm very happy with the diversification it offers and the access to those higher interest rates, which means I get the best interest rate on my savings. Click on the link in the video description on YouTube or in the show notes on the podcasting platforms and open a high interest bank deposit or savings account today. Back to the episode. Yeah, but if you just sit and you just, you're a regular investor, you just stay in the market, disclaimer, not financial advice.
Yeah.
History doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but probably you're going to be all right.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think it's like the key thing, and this is what I do in my course, is like just removing the fear. Like fear causes so much inaction. And it's like really trying to understand where does that fear come from and what actually is that fear, because some of the fears are understandable and rational, but can be explained and you're, broken down so that you're like, oh, it's not as scary as it actually seems.
Yeah. Yeah, the psychological aspect to investing, I think, probably even plays like a bigger role than the actual technical knowledge and understanding of how it works.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. I agree.
So what is your general investing strategy? So we know crypto is out of the picture, but what is your kind of, what is your approach to investing?
Honestly, I am a boring, so boring is how I would just, slow and boring. 90% of my portfolio is in ETFs and index funds, like global market, broad basket stuff. And I ideally, part of the reason why I'm investing is for, to be able to retire when I want, instead of having to wait till the government tell me. And the other part is wanting to know that I'm building my wealth whilst working towards my big happy goal, which is basically me to be able to run my business whilst traveling. And I'm thinking long term, 20, 30 years, 20, 25, 30 years type thing. So it's very slow, boring and consistent. I'm sure I dabbled in picking stocks, and I didn't feel like I was giving it enough time, and I don't think I was connected to my money enough in regards to relation of what I felt my risk was. So I was like, I'm just going to wait until I've got a bit more time for that, until I want to learn about that, because it's not, again, it's something you still have to give your attention. But yeah, mine is just long term, be consistent.
Yeah,
touch it in 20 years.
Yeah, I actually did start with individual stocks,
Yeah.
but probably, and I did all right, but probably because I come from a finance background and I know how to read a P&L, a balance sheet, all these kind of things. So it definitely helped.
Helps.
But even still, I would sometimes I'd spend hours analyzing a stock, and then at the end I'd be like, no, not going to invest in this one.
Yeah, not
so
going to do
it
it.
is, and when you're doing you've obviously got a lot going on in your life. I've got side hustles and YouTube channel and everything. I got to a point where I was like, I can't be wasting time on this. Let's just index fund it all the way.
Yeah, and I think when you work in finance as well, or if you've learned about it, you understand how it's the time versus reward thing. It's okay, well, maybe I could make a bit more picking individual stocks. Maybe I could amplify my return by whatever percentage. But is it worth the time that I'm giving it? Now, some people really enjoy it, and they're I really enjoy reading. They just love business. They love business, and they love all of that. I like business, and but not to the extent of spending hours to then potentially even say no, just to make a little bit more of a return. And it is the whole thing, obviously, high risk, high reward. But I'm happier with evidence-based, safer investments. And maybe I'll feel differently about it in 10 years when I'm sitting on my millions.
Yeah.
And I'll think by then.
Yeah, but even still, even if you enjoy this kind of thing and looking through annual reports and analyzing this kind of stuff, you got to be careful not to turn investing into a hobby. At the end of the day, your goal is to make money,
exactly,
and to get the best return you can on your investment. And it might not be the best use of your time to get that best return. Yeah,
it's where else could that time be going? Especially when you do run your own business. I know every minute you're awake, you're could be working on my business, but do you know what I mean? So then it's this, it's the time prioritizing thing.
Yeah. Good. Are there any other like important lessons or key lessons that you've had along the way with your investing journey?
I think that like along the way with investing, I've realised that how I view my relationship with money has changed massively. It's made me feel, I guess, more abundant because I'm like, I tell people it's like free money. Obviously there's risk, but like the free money that you make from leaving your money there and understanding your own emotions and understanding the stock market, I don't know, it's made me feel quite abundant because I'm like, oh, well, I just could put more in here, or I could make more to put more in. And I also think another one I learned quite early on was like not jumping on trends. I did that. That was a bad idea. I only did it once. It was the whole, do you remember GameStop? I'm sure everybody.
Oh no, you didn't get in on that, did you?
Guilty. I lost £100 because that's all I put in. So I was like, I'm not willing to lose anymore. So I knew I was going into it. There was risk involved, obviously, but it was riskier. But my friends did it, and I was like, they were like, Laura, surely you should be doing this. Like, come on, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I kind of got peer pressured into it. And then I was like, what am I doing? So I learned it was a small lesson to pay. Don't jump on investing hypes and trends because by the time you've heard about it, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
Which is classic. But yeah, I also the power of talking to other people about it. Like, I love talking to my friends about it. Like, my mum's investing now, my sister's starting investing, and like my friends are looking into it. So it's so nice, like the impact that it has when you learn something, and then you teach the people around you.
Yeah, I have at least, since I started investing, I have at least like 5 other friends that like have gotten in and started investing since, and it's like great. It's great to talk, like be able to talk to them about it and see like how it's changing their financial perspective and what they want to do in life as well.
Yeah, I think it's nice. It's nice to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
Powerful.
Okay. Next question is about genders and investing. So I've seen stats where, women generally don't invest as often as men do or as much as men do. So as a woman and someone who invests as well, what do you think are some of the main barriers or challenges that other women face when it comes to getting into investing?
So I think first off is the acknowledgement about how we as women have been left out of financial conversations for a really long time. The first stock exchange was open in 1600s, but women were only allowed their own bank accounts in 1975, 50 years ago. So it's like, that's a really long time that we weren't involved there. And I think the barrier there is feeling like it's not for you, feeling like it's for old, rich, white dudes. You not seeing people that look like you that invest, not being able to feel like you can have conversations with other women. Because there's a lot of men that talk about investing online. But the people in my audience, who are 70 to 85% women, are like, we don't like going there. And it's no shade to the men. This isn't calling them out saying they're doing it in a bad way. But when you're used to something and you're used to talking about other people that look like you as something, you forget, it's like the curse of knowledge. You forget how much you know sometimes. And I think that women have felt just like it's not for them. So there's kind of that element. And then also I think I always talk about this piece of research that was done by Anne Bowden, who runs Starling Bank. And she basically looked at all the different articles, 7,000 articles aimed at men and women, and looked at the language. The language aimed at men was mostly build wealth, grow your money, invest. It was promoting different investing apps, all that kind of stuff. But with women, it was cut back, save the pennies, splurge, budgeting. And there was nothing about investing. So it's naturally when you get fed these messages through the media, it sinks in. It goes with it subconsciously. So you're that's just what I need to focus on. And then obviously you take into account all the stuff like the gender pay gap and the gender pension gap. There's all these extra things that kind of have an impact. So I think it's more just this feeling like it's not for you as a woman. And if it is for me, well, who am I turning to?
Yeah. Obviously, there's yourself, and then the UK personal finance scene in general, I think, is very diverse now. Do you think that's helping more women get involved and get started?
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah, totally. I started talking about investing on my page maybe 4 years ago. And it's so funny because I look back 4 years ago, and even though I knew my stuff, obviously I was still only starting out, but I'd really done my research. I knew what I was talking about, but I was kind of scared to talk about it because I was like, oh, there's all these men out there doing it. They obviously know more than me, and maybe I'm going to say something wrong, or maybe I'm going to do something wrong obviously you have to be careful in financial services anyway, but it wasn't really until like maybe 2 years ago when I was like, no, I know what I'm talking about. And I like launched my course and I had all these women get involved. I was like, women need this. There are definitely other pages that are women in the UK that talk about it. And I'm like, all for it. I'm like, I love it. I'm like, let's go. Let's get everyone talking about it. And I definitely have felt a shift in the number of women who come to my page looking to get started with investing and being like, that's the main focus, as opposed to, hey, I'm looking how to budget. Still some people obviously absolutely do that, but in general there's a rise in interest in it, which I love.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think sometimes like people need a relatable figure as well. It's not to say that I couldn't be relatable to a woman or you couldn't be relatable to a man, but yeah, like I'm a man and like my YouTube audience is like 80% male. But that's just, probably because of who I am, the way I speak, like the interests I have, it just naturally draws more men. And I think, like the fact that now the UK like personal finance scene is very diverse, I think it gives everyone a chance.
Yeah, and I think it also just means that like because especially when it comes to like influencers and stuff, like why do you follow one influencer over another? It's just sometimes there isn't a reason. It's just you're like, I just like them more. Like, and maybe it's because they look like me. Maybe it's because they're a woman. Maybe it's because they're black. Maybe it's because they represent me in the community. But maybe sometimes like, I just like their vibe. And you know, there are other people that do it. But when I say why do you follow, like I say to people like, oh, why do you follow me? They're like, oh, it's your personality, it's your vibe, it's your energy. Because I'm very like upbeat, and I'll like come on Instagram stories at like 6 a.m. being like, hi guys, I'm on my way to yoga. But people also see me living my life, so I think that's really important for me to be like, I haven't come from money, I am not the wealthiest version of myself in regards to like numbers. I will be in the future, that's what I'm working towards, but people are seeing me on my journey as I'm teaching them as well. So I think the relatability piece is really important, in the context of like how I'm investing, why I'm investing, what it's done for my life. And I think that inspires other people to do the same, which I love.
Yeah. Great. So now we're going to talk more about your entrepreneurial journey, Laura. So you said you left your full-time job 2 years ago and went full-time with entrepreneurship. What made you jump ship?
Oh, so the company that I worked for them for nearly 10 years. So I was there, I started when I was 20, when I was just turned 19, and I left just before I was 29. I was really lucky. I had an amazing boss. He was so supportive. He wanted me to take on the company, like become the MD. And I'd worked my way up in the business, but it just wasn't for me. My heart wasn't in it. I was good at the job, but you just know, I was like, this isn't my purpose. So I always knew that I wanted to leave. And the plan was that I was going to go traveling, which is initially what I saved that 20 grand for. Then obviously COVID hit. And I was like, oh, looks like that plan's gone out the window. And so I set my business up during that time, and obviously I was still working full time, and I was just kind of like, okay. And I honestly, when I set up my blog, I did on my Instagram, I didn't think it was going to be a business. I was genuinely doing it for fun whilst I figured out what I was going to do. So when I got my first like influencer deal, when I got my first client, I was like, I'm starting a business. Like, it was wild. And when I spoke to my boss, he was really supportive, and I kind of like ramped from like full-time to part-time to contractor, and I ran weighing myself out. But the thing that made me jump was just like, my heart was so in this. The more I was talking online and the more I was getting jobs and the more it was spreading, and the impact I could see it was having, I was like, I want to do this forever, or for at least a really long time. And I also, because I was going to be an actress, I always thought I was going to have an unconventional job. I never thought I'd have a 9 to 5. Sometimes though, I do wish I did just want a 9 to 5. Like, there is points where I'm like, I've chosen the hard life for myself. But yeah, the thing that made me jump was I just got really busy in my business, and I was like, it's time.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Like the other day I had something where I was looking at like some kind of problem, like accounting problem I had, and I just looked and I was like, oh, for goodness sake, like, why do I put myself through this? There are days like that as an entrepreneur, I think, where you're literally like, I could have such an easier life. Yeah. Like, sometimes I imagine that version of me where I'm like, I have a 9 to 5 that I like, pays me a good salary, and I clock off at 5 or 6, and I go out, and then I go to the pub with my mates, and then at the weekend I just do whatever I want. Like, it's so funny. And then I'm like, I know that wouldn't fulfill me, so I know that it's not the solution, but it's hard sometimes. Exactly, yeah. I think it's like, you trade, I don't know, say 37 and a half, 40 hours a week to do something that you're maybe not passionate about. But if you're spending, I don't know, 60, 70 hours a week as an entrepreneur on something you are passionate about, then maybe the trade-off's worth it for you.
Yeah. Right now it is.
Yeah. And that's the main thing. So
yeah.
Good stuff. So what is your favorite thing about being a full-time entrepreneur, even with the challenges that we mentioned before?
Even with the challenges. I love having the freedom to do what I want. Like the freedom to have slow mornings. You know, like I got back from a holiday the other day and I woke up in the morning and I felt awful. And I probably could have sat up and sat on my laptop and, you know, had a full-time job, you probably would have still gone in. But I was like, I'm just going to move my calendar around. Like I was going to make some content today. I'll make it in the evening so I could just do that. And I'm a real like stickler for a morning routine. Like my morning routine is like I get up, I make myself a cacao, I go to yoga, I come back, I do like this long list of things, you know, like a lemon and ginger shot, and then I have a shot. You know, I do all of these things like for optimal health. But it takes me like 3 hours. But and running my own business, I'm like, well, I can do that. And I also can work around the way in which I like to work in my day. Like, depending on where I'm at, like, just in the week, in the month hormonally, sometimes I'm like, I can sit and work for 12 hours and bash out so much work. And there are some days where I will do 2 hours. And I love that freedom. And I know it'll get more, you know, as I go on. And also, I just spent 10 days in Italy, took my laptop. 5 days was a holiday with some of my friends, and the other 5 days was like at a hotel by the pool, bashing out 6 hours of work and then going out in the evening. So it was like so cool to just be able to like, it's so cool just to be able to do that. Like my travel is my why, big time. Yeah. So I being an entrepreneur really leans into that, especially with the type of business that I run, because like 60% of it is online.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that pretty much answers the next question I had for you. And yes, you want to go like digital. Okay, we'll say digital nomad or remote worker, because with some other guests I've had, we have a bit of a blurred line between what is a digital nomad and what's a remote worker. So what is
the difference? What would you say?
So from speaking with another guest that I had on, so a guy called Josh from Expats Everywhere, he defined a digital nomad as someone who moves country frequently. So they might spend a month, few weeks in one place, then may move on. They have no kind of permanent base, whereas a remote worker, they might stay in one location for a longer period of time. It might be a matter of years. They might travel like between a few places, but they have kind of more of a home base. They have a more stable situation, let's say.
Interesting. Okay, out of the two, I would probably be more likely to, I would be a hybrid, but I'd be more like a digital nomad. Like I don't think I would like set up shop in Italy for 2 years and then see what I'd be like. Okay, like my plan would be to like go to, I don't know, Ibiza for a month, work there, do what I want, come back to London, maybe do a couple of events, whatever. Then I'd go work in Italy, then I'd come back, then I'd go to Mexico. Like I would jump around, I wouldn't set up base. And ideally I'd still have a base in London that I could come back to, but that's the dream. That's what I
Okay, nice, yeah. If you're traveling or living abroad and you need to use a different currency from your home currency, then check this out. I've been using a multi-currency platform called Wise for many years now, and it's a great solution for people who are looking to send money abroad, convert money, and spend money in foreign currencies. Wise offers competitive exchange rates with low commissions, meaning that when you need to exchange money to another currency, you don't overpay to do so. You can get bank details for a range of different currencies to be able to send and receive money abroad. You also receive a virtual debit card so that you can make purchases in other currencies, which is particularly useful when you're traveling. And you also have the option to get a physical debit card if you wish as well. This is an absolute must-have for me when I travel. I've been to multiple different countries around the world with my Wise card, and I'm very happy to have done so. It also helps me on a daily basis when it comes to banking in multiple different countries. Sign up to Wise today using the link in the video description on YouTube or in the show notes on podcasting platforms. And now, let's get back to the podcast. What would be your preferred countries?
Anything that is warm. I'm a sun chaser. I love the sun. Love it. I love Ibiza. I love Italy. They're my two favourite places at the minute. But I've always really wanted to travel South America. So I mean Mexico and South America, but I'd love to do like Peru and Colombia and Brazil and all of those places. So they're like top. But obviously I couldn't say wherever I'd actually want to stay.
Yeah. Do you think you'd pick places based on like, I don't know, if they have an interesting tax regime or if they have like a interesting digital nomad visa, or would you pick specifically places that you're like, this place interests me and I want to go there?
Probably the latter. That's where my head's at, but I haven't even thought about the tax implications of all of that. I'm like, yeah, I'll deal with that when I get there.
Yeah.
Like, it might sway me, but...
Yeah, because I didn't when I moved to Spain. Like I've been living in Madrid now for about 5 years, and I moved here because I wanted to, and I wanted to live in Spain and live Spanish life. It's all great and fantastic, but now I know what tax is like in Spain, and I'm like, oh well, this is not as low as it could be somewhere else. But,
interesting.
Yeah. It's just things like this that you don't necessarily think about when you first move to a place, even though it's like on your heart, in your mind, or in your heart or something. But yeah. So I mean, I got really into like a YouTube channel called Nomad Capitalist like over the past couple of years. And this guy, like, because of him, like, I visited Georgia, I visited Turkey, I visited, like, a lot of Eastern Europe, a few places in Eastern Europe. And I was like, wow, like, yeah, these are super interesting places that I never would have visited otherwise.
Love that. Yeah, I'm really interested in, like, I'm just a massive adventurer. Like, even if I go to a new city in the UK or, like, a new place, I don't want to be on my phone. I want to be like walking around and just like looking and seeing what I can find, and like little brunch places and coffee spots and yummy food and like what people are. Do you know what I mean? Like there's loads. I love all of that. So that's so many options. It's overwhelming if anything. But I just know after my like travel trip before, I'm like, I need to do more of this. It's in my heart and my soul.
Yeah, nice. So. In your opinion, is entrepreneurship the best way to build wealth?
Okay. Controversial opinion, maybe. Oh, it's so hard because maybe it can be a great way to build wealth, but there are also other great ways to build wealth. Like if you go into a career and you get a really high paid salary, like really nice, and you do it tax efficiently, you can build wealth through investing or property and be out there and be happy days. Like it, but the great thing about entrepreneurship is that I do feel like you really do like uncap your income ceiling, and then whilst you're building wealth, you are getting so much more freedom to do what you want. So actually, not controversial opinion, it is the best way not necessarily financially, but in regards to like lifestyle, I think, because whilst you're building your wealth, you're literally getting to hopefully live a life that you really enjoy. If you're doing it in something that you really enjoy, there's a lot of caveats to it.
There is a lot of caveats to it.
We're really not giving you a straight answer. Am I a politician or what?
Yeah, I think now that I think about it, like when you ask that question, you have to put on the end, like, is it the best way to build wealth for whoever it is? Because someone might not have entrepreneurial skills. They might not want to commit all that time, like, to entrepreneurship. Yeah. They might just be happy with putting in their, £300-400 a month into investing, and then 65, they've got, six-figure. Yeah.
And they could even end up wealthier than some entrepreneurs, because some entrepreneurs run themselves into the ground. They don't do the right things with their money, like, or they try and keep up with an entrepreneur lifestyle and they're like just spending everything. There's so many factors to it. I feel like for me, yes, because of the want for freedom and the want to travel while still building wealth, and then uncapping my own income ceiling. It's like it ticks all the boxes. It's just that your finances, especially as an entrepreneur, do not have a linear trajectory. It's not just like get a job, get a pay rise, put a bit more away every month and repeat. It's, you quit your job and then you have to rely on your savings, and then you do really well in business, and then business is really hard, and then maybe this, and then maybe that, and then you have to wait this amount of time for the success. There's all these factors. But it's like, I think if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you're doing it first and foremost for like the journey of being an entrepreneur, but then also for the life that it could give you, and then also the finances. It's like looking at all of the things.
Yeah, 100%. All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Laura. You said some great stuff there. Got one more question before we go. I always ask a fun question at the end. I have to ask you about your character Sandra, like where she came from, and she's had a pretty tough time in life, I have to say. Like, look at some of the things she posts on social media.
Oh my God, I love Sandra so much. Honestly, I don't know where she came from. I've actually got the wig on the wall. Can you see that?
Oh wow,
Sandra?
yeah.
Sandra's hanging out with my other 2 wigs. Where did she come from? I actually can't remember. So it was about 2 years ago, and obviously actress at heart. Oh, I know where she came from. So I went to a fancy dress party, which was films from the 80s and 90s, or 90s and 60s, or something like that. But anyway, I went as Kate Winslet from Titanic, and that was always my dream. As a kid, when I wanted to be an actress, that's always who I wanted to be. She was like my absolute role model. So I went as her, and I bought this big red curly wig, and I did the scene, you know, the front of the thing, and I like made this little boat, and I had a little Leonardo DiCaprio. It was cute. Anyway, I then got this wig after this party, and I was like, oh, okay. And I remember being like, I should do something with this. I was like, maybe I can make a character, you know. It was one of those, and then I just brainstormed it for a bit, and the idea just came out of nowhere, and I was like, I'm going to do a little like I'd probably been, you know, maybe seen some content or seen something on the telly that like inspired me, and then people love her.
Yeah. Oh, she's so funny. Yeah. I mean, like, there's loads of influencers that have like their own characters or like skits as well. Like Mark Tilbury, he makes like characters all the time. And then there's like a lawyer in the US called Erica Kolberg. She does that as well.
Oh, is she corporate error?
She was she was a former corporate lawyer, and then she's
funny. I've seen her. Yeah, no, I just like, and I've got a few more characters in the basket to come out.
Oh, nice.
So they're on the way, which is really fun. But I just it comes down to that, like making money fun, making it relatable, me getting to still act and perform and do fun things. But also I hadn't really seen anybody else do it as well. So it was just like it was one of those that when you have a creative idea and instead of sitting on it and it's sitting in your notes on your iPhone for 5 years and then going, well, the moment's passed, I just acted on it really quick and then it stuck. And Sandra's had a couple of brand deals as well, which is really fun.
Nice. Yeah. So it was a good choice.
Some brands requested her, can we have Sandra? I was like, yes, you can.
That's amazing. That's when you don't even do a good job.
Yeah. Sandra needs to start doing her tax return soon.
Yeah, she is. HMRC will be coming for her.
Yeah, she'll be coming for her. She'll probably beat him up.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Laura. Great episode.
Thank you for having me.
So I hope you enjoyed that episode, guys, and found it interesting and inspiring. Remember that if you'd like to support the podcast and the work that Millennials with Money does, you can do so by signing up as a channel member on YouTube or by becoming a patron. And in return, you'll get access to exclusive content, such as being able to watch these episodes without adverts, getting to see behind the scenes videos, member exclusive live streams, and for the top tier members, you'll also get the chance to ask me your questions and get a personalized response. So next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.